Live long and prosper. This is Comrade Atomny, a communist from a former Soviet Union, and today I'm gonna talk about the Western lies, brainwashing, and lies about elections in USSR. Что, товарищи, с вами товарищ Атомный, коммунист, и сегодня мы поговорим о том, как западная пропаганда, частная пропаганда, врет о выборах в Советском Союзе и дискредитирует нашу страну. So, as the majority of things in Western, the propaganda of Western part is also private. So, private persons rise up the agendas that needed for the propaganda of democratic so-called society. And this is the private propaganda by the channel History Matters, and what he's telling here. Now we will talk about that. Что поговорим? Вот у нас, как и все, в принципе, в США, пропаганда тоже отдана в частные руки, частным лицам. И вот у нас есть канал History Matters, который, собственно, тоже проводит пропаганду по Советскому Союзу.
The Soviet Union had elections, but wasn't it a one-party state? Well, yes, but that didn't mean that you couldn't vote, and the USSR had many elections open to the wider Soviet public. Now, the nature of these votes did change over the decades, and
В общем-то, он рассказывает сейчас о том, что типа в Советском Союзе была однопартийная система, и при этом были выборы, и что время от времени эти выборы регулярно проводили, да, и могли выбирать люди. Мы сконцентрируемся на годах, когда страной руководил Иосиф Сталин. Joseph Stalin. Okay, let's concentrate on those years, though we don't concentrate about liberty years after after ruling of Khrushchev and after him. Okay, on the most despotic and most hard years of USSR. Let's concentrate on that. Let's do that. Давайте так и поступим. Сконцентрируемся на годах товарища Сталина. Неважно, что потом была хрущевская оттепель и Советский Союз 80-х, 70-х годов. Там вообще очень все свободно было. Не будем это вспоминать, да? Будем вспоминать пока самые сложные года Советского Союза. Давайте пойдем в этом стиле. Okay, let's go then. Граждане Советского Союза выбирали своих представителей в Верховный Совет. Ну да, депутатов. И эти выборы проходили каждые 5 лет. И выбор был очень прост. Процесс был очень простой. Они приходят в голосование, и там только один кандидат, за которого нужно голосовать. And this is lies, and I can prove that with the documents, scanned documents. Yeah, because this is like Western propaganda, cartoons that say that they only one candidate. Let's go to the documents. So this is elections of 1937 under the rule of Stalin, and we see the picture of the voting bulletin and 3 candidates inside that. So based on those documents already telling that this what is said in this video is totally false and lies. We see the candidates, 3 persons, electing as the deputies in the year 37 under the so evil and cruel ruling of Stalin, dictatorship, etc. And this is lies of Western propaganda. You see the pictures of the newspaper of that time. There is like examples of bulletins, how they need to work without candidates, and there is also description of any candidates, the law explanations in the magazine, so the voters could understand that better. And here we see the articles about every candidate. So you see they are like what they did, where they did it work. So this is an example of how elections was upheld in the Soviet Union really under the most cruel ruler of Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin. And after Khrushchev it was more democratic and more elected. So the Western propaganda about the Soviet Union as a dictatorship is a lie, because Soviet Union was also a democratic state, but with the another economical system, which was named socialism. And USA is democracy with the capitalist system. So both superpowers of that time was democratic, Soviet Union also. But Western propaganda could not admit that and lies. That's the truth. В общем-то, да, я показываю сканы документов выборов 1937 года с 3 кандидатами, мы видим, да, и конкретно это еще Сталин руководил, страшный диктатор Сталин. Мы видим газету, где показаны, как бюллетени должны выглядеть, да. Мы видим описание выдержки из законодательства советского, а также, собственно, статьи по каждому из кандидатов. Это в сталинские годы, да. Выбор как минимум из 3 кандидатов. So you see that in Stalin years there is people could vote for 3 candidates which they can select of. So they could select. Okay, let's hear what this nonsense of the Western propaganda continues on. And I know what the Westerners would say. They would say that, oh, we don't believe. We just don't believe in evidence. We know better how you lived there. We never was in Soviet Union. We never read even one document. We never spoke to the peoples who really lived in the communist world. In a communist, but we know better how you live. I know that you will respond this, Westerners, because you are brainwashed. You are brainwashed, and then telling that, oh, that's people who are from the Soviet Union actually brainwashed. No, that's you are brainwashed, and you are denying reality. I've spoke with the people from the how you go, Peace Corps, yeah, Peace Corps, and when I show the evidence of that in Ukraine, there is a fascist people that was there was a news material from the official channels, Ukrainian channels, where there was a ATO veteran who had a Nazi insignia, the swastikas, on his chest. And what actually Peace Corps volunteer said? He said that he's just not believing. Here is the evidence. Here is the video. You see that he runs swastika. You see this is from official website of the channel of this channel. This is official their video. Just don't believe. That's how you do. You are brainwashed and denying reality if it doesn't fit in what your propaganda says. В общем-то, да, знаете, я знаю, как будут на самом деле западники себя вести в случае этой пропаганды. Они просто скажут, что они не верят. Они не верят. Они просто скажут, что это все вымысел, они не верят в эти документы. So you will just say that you don't believe in these documents, and that's all. That's all. You will say. And all the talks about equality, about finding truth, that's just your lies. You want only your agenda, only your propaganda, and none of the truth. This is what you're doing. And then you say that, oh, communists are so bad. We are the communists who condemned the Stalin. If we did not condemn the Stalin, nobody in the world knew that Stalin did something wrong. So Communist Party revived and rechecked what Joseph Stalin actually did and decided, oh, he was too much in many things. We need to correct that and fix those errors. And the Communist Party did that. None of the democratic world, none parties of the USA said, oh, you know, slavery and racism in the USA is bad, and actually we did that. We need to like stop doing that. And the presidents who was a slave owners, that also was bad. So we need to correct that. No, you are don't saying about this. Everything is perfect. Slave ownery was good because the president was perfect, and criticizing yourself. And only Communist Party was brave enough and strong enough in order to criticize one of their most admirable leaders and rise that tension up. And now you are saying, oh, we are so bad communists because we found the errors that was made by us previously and corrected those errors. Nobody talking about that we corrected the wrongs that Stalin did. No, you will condemn us for every crime that we did. В общем-то, да, то есть никто не говорит о том, что мы исправили те недостатки, которые были у Сталина, да, то есть коммунистическая партия, собственно, рассмотрела то, что делал Сталин, и многое приняла за перегибы. Там, конечно, меньше перегибов, чем поднималось вопрос, да, но тем не менее ошибки были. И, допустим, западные, так называемые демократы, они никогда не говорят, что Вашингтон, основатель Соединенных Штатов Америки, он вообще был рабовладельцем. Ну, нормально так, демократ-рабовладелец, ничего плохого в этом нету. И там часть президентов была до, собственно, гражданской войны, тоже рабовладельцы. Ну, нормально как бы, да. Чего их осуждать, зачем их смотреть все это? Только сейчас люди начали сносить памятники этим долбанным рабовладельцам.
Most people, the fact that you could only pick from one Communist Party approved candidate doesn't seem very democratic, and that's because it isn't. However, these
And that's false, because we're seeing the documents and we see at least 3 candidates in voting of 1937.
Purpose, and in some ways it did give ordinary Soviet citizens a voice in how the USSR was run. Before that, it's important to say how candidates were selected and what this meant for how the USSR operated after these elections. Obviously,
В общем, рассказывает о том, как выбирают в Советском Союзе кандидатов, что только один кандидат возможен. Конечно, это ложь.
Couldn't get onto the ballot without the express consent of the Communist Party, and the vast majority of candidates were Communist Party ones. Some were independent candidates, which gives a nice bit of...
So, you see that in a communist right state there could be independent candidates. Yeah, that was true. The people was communist or independent, and no other allowed. So there was no other parties, and only independent without party or a communist, and you can select of that. And many people saying that the communist has a preferentials. Yeah, the people who was in a communist party, they get preferential, they would more easily rise in the ranks, but independent people and non-party members, they also was present at like a 10% or 15% in general voting in general amount of candidates and etc. For example, in space program, the developer of Soyuz spacecraft, he was independent. He did not wanted to join the Communist Party, though the people proposed him dozen times to join Communist Party, but he decided no, he would be independent. And he also flew in space. This is the Kapitalistov engineer, general engineer, who designed the Soyuz spacecraft. And he's independent. Да, я говорю о том, что в Советском Союзе были независимые кандидаты, кроме коммунистической партии. Их приблизительно было от 10 до 15%, и многие выдающиеся руководители, лидеры каких-то министерств, в том числе, да, направлений, тоже были непартийными. Например, наиболее известный такой кандидат — это разработчик космического корабля «Союза» Феоктистов, вот, который полетел в космос. Ему десяток раз предлагали присоединяться, вступить в коммунистическую партию, он отказывался, и он был главным инженером космического корабля «Союз» без того, чтобы быть коммунистом, да, и, собственно, и в космос летал, не будучи коммунистом. Поэтому вот так вот все должно было. And because why there is no capitalists in our system? Because capitalists are the enemy of the state, of the workers, and they must be allowed. And feudals, monarchs also are enemies of the state, and fascists are enemies of the state, and any other ideology was not invented at that time, and even now not invented. So there is. But what I, as a communist, can say that it would be like the better than the Soviet Union. There was a more representative of different communist and socialist like tensions. For example, Trotskyists, Maoists, and also Stalinists and more moderate type of the people. So as a communist, I wanted to see in the Soviet Union more different branches of the communist ideologies, though they really existed but never mentioned as real threats. So there was a groups of organized groups inside the Communist Party which preferred more ideas of Trotsky, other of Stalinist, more of Khrushchev ideas. Some was in favor of Mao ideas, etc. So there was groups, but they was unofficial. And this is that people does not really understand, especially in former Western world. Да, рассказал о том, что в коммунистической партии, вот лично мне как коммунисту, было бы лучше, чтобы коммунистическая партия позволяла существовать фракциям разных направлений коммунизма и социализма. То есть, допустим, маоисты, троцкисты, сталинисты, там, хрущевисты, те же, можно, ну, перестройщики-то, конечно, предатели, но в конце концов, да. То есть различные направления вот коммунистов, какой вид социализма конкретно будет воплощен или какой вид коммунизма. Вот это хотелось бы видеть. Такие группы на самом деле внутри коммунистической партии существовали, но они были неформальными. То есть как бы группа своя, вот допустим, группа, которая была за ГКЧП, да, это своя более жесткая группа была, они ближе к сталинистам были, вот такие жесткая позиция. Это была своя фракция, да, но фракции не было разрешено в Советском в партии, и поэтому, но они групповались вместе. So one example of the fraction, well, the Stalinist hardline fraction in the Soviet party was the GKCP, the people who was for the hardline and was not hard enough in order to maintain power in Soviet Union in the events of the political coup in August, a coup in 1990, COP in 1991. They need to be stronger, and this is example of unofficial fraction of communist parties. So communist party had that fractions, though they was not officially approved. It was like unofficial, and this was how it was. If you want to know reality, but I guess not. В общем, объясняю это для того, чтобы кто-то, ну, люди разбирались лучше в истории, помнили это, вот в таком ракурсе.
Variation, providing you ignore the fact that they were also communists and would agree with the Communist Party on everything.
No. Again, the independent candidates disagreed on many cases with the party. That's why they was independent, and that's why they did not wanted to join the party in the first place. So they was not that right. There was like 50-50 on 50% of points that they make. They was like not agreeing with Communist Party. On 50% of points they was agreed. And actually the points of non-agreement there was like not good publicized. So the party and the state newspapers, they did not concentrate the point in like attention on the different points of views. So like they more spoke about the common things that they are thinking, the independents and the Communist Party. That's how it worked.
Also, in case you're wondering, the reason why all candidates stood unopposed was that the party wouldn't allow it.
Да, я говорю о том, что ну, то есть в Советском Союзе вот независимые кандидаты, они были потому независимы, потому что с рядом положений коммунистической партии или конкретных действий были не согласны. Вот, допустим, многие независимые не хотели ввождения войск в Чехословакию. So one example of disagreement between the independents and the Communist Party is that independents in general was against Czechoslovakia invasion of Soviet troops. And that's why they did not want to join the party. Many of independents was independent because of that point. So this is the example, and that happens a lot in the history of Soviet Union. Then independence was against the what Soviet Union did. For example, more independent in the 80s. There was plenty of independence that was against the invasion of Afghanistan. And the news just did not rise to that they was like thinking like so. Да, ну, независимые кандидаты, например, были против ввода войск в Чехословакию в 80-х годах, если пример приводить, то независимые были против ввода в большинстве в Афганистан, то есть это такие... So the independence, they was like more of the pacifists way, so they like nowhere to intervene, etc. But also there was independence that was in favor of invasions, but like they supported the help to Vietnam. They was in favor of Angola. So if you was independent in Soviet Union, that doesn't mean that you oppose of any invasions. No. So in some cases, some of the independence was against particular invasions of Soviet Union, like Czechoslovakia or Afghanistan. that was like the most independent was against both, two of those events. All the others was supported. So this was the difference, and they openly spoke about their differences, but just that was not distributed in newspapers. Да, то есть и независимые часто выражали свое несогласие, да, с теми или теми пунктами, но просто это не особо писалось в газетах, да, не акцентировалось на это внимание, и больше акцентировали внимание на том общем, что есть.
Itself to appear divided. And just so you know, here's how the voting process would work. 1, you'd turn up at the polling station. 2, you'd receive a ballot that would have the name of your candidate on it. 3, you'd place that ballot in the ballot box, and that would be counted as a vote for the candidate.
And this is false. There was also different systems in different years. There was like voting abilities in the Soviet Union that you can vote for the candidate or against candidate. So you support candidate or not supporting. There was during Soviet Union the voting system have changed. In majority cases there was many candidates. There was even ability to vote against any candidates. In the 1937, as example here, there was only 3 candidates, and you cannot vote against against everybody. But in the later Soviet Union, in the 70s and 80s, there was ability to vote against everyone. So you are like selecting nobody. There was such an option.
But what if a person didn't wish to vote for the candidate on the paper? Well, then they were free to enter the voting booth and scribble out the candidate's name. But then everyone would know that you did it because you were one of the few that kept their ballot a secret.
Yes, you also could add your own candidate into the ballots and write it like a force and take the name and description, who is he and what he is doing. That was ability, but in the late Soviet Union that was removed because it was acting improperly. But that's actually a good choice when the people could enter the name of their own candidate. And of course, in the Western world, this is something new because you cannot place there any names of your own candidates. The candidates are already pre-decided. And again, that shows that in an election process and in the democracy's elections, the Soviet Union was definitely ahead of the USA and Western world.
So with elections being run in this way, then surely there was no point of them. Well, actually, no. For the state, they were used to demonstrate popular support for the Communist Party and its policies.
That's false, because you see in these ballots often in this movie that people like voting for Joseph Stalin. And why this is wrong? The election system worked differently in Soviet Union. You was not so you elected the deputies that represented the people in the supreme like analog of Senate, yeah. So on the supreme meetings, in the that was like example how it's called, yeah, here. And it name I forgot the name, the Supreme Soviet, yes, Soviet. People elected only candidates to Supreme Soviet. They did not elected the General Secretary or the Politburo. And for all the democratic elections in the Soviet Union that was upheld, they elected only the deputies in the regional Soviets or into the Supreme Soviet. Never they elected any president, only Gorbachev, but even Gorbachev was not elected by the people. He was appointed by the Supreme Soviet. Continuing on to this thread. So after electing deputies in Supreme Soviet or in regional Soviets, the Supreme Soviet then elected the Politburo. This is like the key members of the Soviet Union. Let's write down Politburo. Okay, so there is a Politburo. This is the most important organ that actually like it is most close to minister cabinet, yeah, like this saying. And the head of this Politburo, then Politburo itself, selected the general secretary. So the Supreme Soviet elected the Politburo. and Politburo itself elected the Supreme Secretary. That's how it actually works. So there was democratic and free elections about a majority of candidates, but people did not vote for the Supreme Secretary itself and for the Politburo members. They only voted for regional deputies and for the deputies, well, the state deputies that represented the states of the Soviet Union, like Ukraine or Belarus or Kazakhstan or Russian Federation, Soviet Russian Federation, and they also voted for Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union. This is the difference. В общем, я объясняю, да, что вот этот бюллетень, он ложный, тем, что никогда нельзя было в Советском Союзе голосовать за генерального секретаря обычным людям или за этот самый, как его, за политбюро. Процесс выборов был следующий, что вначале выбираем мы, в общем, областного депутата или депутата республиканского совета, то есть это советов Украинской ССР, там Белорусской ССР, Казахской ССР, РСФСР. Вот, и только уже, и, собственно, да, Верховного Совета депутатов тоже туда выбирались. И, собственно, когда выбрали Верховный Совет уже выбирал Политбюро. Вот мы видим Политбюро, это фактически, ну, ближе всего к кабинету министров, да, то есть это наиболее важные люди, которые занимались именно непосредственно управлением государством, да. Самое ближе это к кабинету министров в современном понимании. А уже само Политбюро, то есть сам кабинет, ну, аналог кабинета министров, выбирали генерального секретаря, кто возглавит это Политбюро. Вот такая была система в Советском Союзе. И это очень интересно вам рассказать, потому что мало кто знает, как на самом деле был организован демократический избирательный процесс в Советском Союзе. Ну и про тот бред, что нельзя больше 3 кандидатов, вот, собственно, еще раз вам документ показываю. Более того, в Советском Союзе можно было вписывать вот в 4-ю графу еще кого-то, кого вы хотели вписать, например. Конечно, сейчас такой свободы нету. В Советском Союзе эта свобода была больше. Okay, so continue on. Продолжаем дальше.
Secret. So, with elections being run in this way, then surely there was no point of them. Well, actually, no. For the state, they were used to demonstrate popular support for the Communist Party and its policies. High turnout meant that it was widely popular, which it could use to then demonstrate to the rest of the world that it had popular support. This is why the government went to such lengths to get people to vote, and if you were unwell, they'd bring the ballot box to you. So how did these...
bringing ballot to you, that means that the even peoples with the disorders in Soviet Union was better protected in the same time than in the USA or in other Western countries, and like even Soviet Union started the like ideas of supplying people with special needs, like cars for those peoples that was invented in Soviet Union and created special types of cars that was well, that was a compact small cars for those people with a disorder. Who could not, who have no legs or arms or etc. some other problems, and special apartments for those people. So Soviet Union was first in the world who actually started to caring about those peoples, and only after decades in which after decades the Western world and the USA said, "Oh, we are the first. We are so good. We are like 10 or 20 years already doing that," and USA suddenly starts to speak, "We are the first." So Western world and USA is about not about that truly something doing, but about lying first and lying the most in the most cruel and most like loud way. This is what about the West world and how the communists see the West propaganda, West media, and West world. You are just repeating what we have done 20 years ago and then saying that you are the first.
Elections benefit ordinary people. Well, here's the thing. Communist candidates could fail to be elected despite it being a one-horse race. You see, if a...
And again, this is false, and I'm showing you again the voting of 1937 under the Stalin, where there was 3 candidates, and you can write down actually a 4th candidate if you wanted to do. So this statement is false. False statement. The USSR had more than 1 candidate at 3, 4, etc. Usually there was like 2 or 3, but that happens to 5 in some cases, like that. So why this continual lies? I don't know, because as you lies repeat more and more, that will be memorized. Yeah, we know this technique. We against it, and USA is using that good.
A candidate failed to get 50% of their area's vote, be that from spoiled ballots or low turnout, then they weren't elected and a new candidate was brought forward. Knowing this, Soviet citizens would often band together and make petitions for local changes, and if they weren't met, no one went out to vote. Thus, if said representative wanted to keep their nice political job, they had to do something. So, in essence, Soviet...
Yeah, and the Soviet Union, the actually deputies did for the people much more than in modern post-Soviet countries like Russia or Ukraine or Moldova. On the Belarus retained that great back like information and like supporting of candidate with its voters, and all the other former Soviet republics, they like candidates are more right now thinking about how to lie to the people. So they lie to the people and then continues on robbing the countries, etc., and doing awful things, and they ignoring all the demands of the people. This is like after the Soviet Union. So there is lesser democracy and lesser freedoms and lesser richness after the fall of Soviet Union. And this happens like actually the what you lose in Cold War. So yeah, I'm admitting that we lost Cold War, and all the problems that we are having right now and all the poor living conditions is due to the loss in the Cold War. And the consequence after this loss of this Cold War is the same as losing in real war. Да, я говорю о том, что я считаю, что Советский Союз все-таки проиграл холодную войну, да, и несмотря на то, что это была война холодная, собственно, последствия этого поражения такие же, как после поражения в настоящей войне. Деградация, упадок, никакого развития, и, собственно, что сейчас в постсоветском пространстве демократии и свободы меньше, чем в Советском Союзе, особенно 80-х годов, когда, собственно, кандидаты не то, что ничего не делают, да, то есть нам, допустим, говорили, что вот здесь в этом видео, что кандидаты в Советском Союзе реально старались для людей что-то сделать, для рабочих и прочих вещей. Да, это сейчас кандидаты все, что думают о том, как соврать, солгать и сманипулировать, да. А тогда действительно кандидаты о людях думали.
Democracy wasn't really a democracy, but it would be wrong to say that these elections were nothing more than a farce and a waste of time. Soviet citizens were smarter.
That's a lie. Again, there was more candidates than one. Often there was two. In majority cases, there was 2 candidates or 3. Very rarely it happened up to 5 candidates, maybe 6. And in some instances, in real rare occasions, there was only 1 candidate, and later on you can vote like for that candidate or against that candidate.
About using them to get local improvements that they needed. It may not have been particularly democratic since you couldn't vote the Communist Party out of office, but it did, in a very small sense, give you an input into how things were run. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
I did not enjoy that because that totally Western lies without any truth, so without any evidence and cartoonish like alike. So write down the cartoonish alike, and I beat that to the shit with the real documents and with the real well scan of the documents and proofs. So now I hope that Westerners will say something that we don't believe you, because you are definitely lying and those documents are just mock-up. Okay, write down. I know that you will lie and you will never admit that actually there was a democracy in Soviet Union, and all that your Western media and your private persons are just lying. Like directly lying, like this History Matters channel, they are lying in this video, and I never think that they will like make a special episode when they will say something like excusing for lying about Soviet Union, excusing for what because in CNN, like, this is a journalist standards. If you have lied, you're saying like, okay, so sorry we reported the false information, we have lied, we are correcting that. Yes, this is like the educated people and people with some moral values do. So what in really the History Matters channel need to make a new episode when they would deny all that they say in previous episodes and say that this episode was a lie, because in Soviet Union there was documents and that showed the documents that was more candidates and explained the election system in Soviet Union on as it was in reality. But I doubt that anyone would do that. I think that everyone was just saying, oh, you are lying because you are a communist and communists are total evil. Something like that. So this is it. Live long and prosper. We see how it goes. Ну что, товарищи, на этом все. Я предрекаю, что знаете, как они поступят. Вот если нормальные, да, журналистские стандарты западные и прочие, то вот этот канал History Matters после выхода моего видео и показания, что есть несколько кандидатов, они должны были бы снять видео о том, что этот самый, что, собственно, вы можете перейти на History Matters и написать здесь на английском, что you have lied, и что вы соврали, да, то есть таким образом поддержать правду про Советский Союз. И если бы были нормальные высокие стандарты, если бы это по-честному работало, да, то они должны были бы снять материал о том, что они соврали в своем ролике, рассказать о том, где они соврали и как на самом деле работает политическая система и выборы в Советском Союзе. Но, конечно, никто из этого не сделает, потому что мы, коммунисты, долбаное зло, которое вот просто зло, потому что зло. Да? И не важно, что мы на десятки лет впереди делали те вещи, которые, собственно, Запад потом за нами повторял. Вот это не имеет значения. Главное врать. Вот Запад, он построен на том, что кто громче врет. Вот они врут, вот. Самое главное распространять, все везде, везде, везде лгать, и вот так оно и получается. Поэтому ври громче. Вот мы, допустим, про инвалидов заботились, сделали специальные машины, ну так называемые инвалидки, да, до таких социальных программ в западном мире ни в Европе, ни в США тогда еще даже и подумать не могли, что специальные автомобили, специальное жилье для инвалидов, а в Советском Союзе это уже делали. Вот. В Советском Союзе было равноправие с женщинами, равноправие разных народностей. Вот. Когда в США там негров вешали, вот, и эти самые, и в Европейском Союзе тоже никакого равенства не было, все это. Женщины вообще сидеть должны были по домам. У нас это давно уже было, а потом, спустя 10, 20, 30 лет после того, как у нас все это внедрено в Советском Союзе, Запад вдруг возникает, рассказывает, вот мы первые в мире. Запад просто тех, кто врут. Врут больше всего, и все. На этом все. Живем и процветаем, товарищи.